It began with the sound of dripping. Not from the roof, not from the cistern in the corner, something slower, duller, like water falling onto cloth and being swallowed before it ever touched the floor. Agnes, the night maid, stopped with her broom in hand. She was alone in the manor's eastern corridor, a place where the air smelled of old wood polish and faint candle smoke. The walls were hung with tapestries so faded their colors had turned to the gray of dust, and the stone beneath her shoes stayed cold no matter how many fires the household kept burning. She knew every sound the place made. The groaning timbers. The mice that scurried along the wainscoting. Even the restless wind slipping through the cracks. But this quiet, steady dripping had no place here. She tried to brush it aside and continued sweeping. The manor's corridors always seemed longer at night, as if the walls stretched themselves when no one was watching. Shadows clung to the corners where her small lamp could not reach, and the silence deepened each time she moved away from the kitchens and toward the older, unused rooms. Still, the sound followed. Drip, drip. When she paused, it seemed to pause as well, as though waiting for her to move again. Agnes's work was simple. Sweep the halls, polish the brass, keep the candles trimmed so the masters would find everything as it should be by dawn. She had no reason to fear the dark. She had worked in houses before this one, older houses, with servants who whispered of things best left unspoken. But this corridor, it unsettled her. The floorboards bowed as if under some hidden weight, and the windows looked out onto nothing but empty fields and a tree line that never stirred. She thought, for a moment, of going back toward the kitchens. But pride held her steady. The house's mistress had scolded her last week for neglecting this part of the manor. She would not be accused again. Agnes lifted the lamp and pressed forward. The dripping grew louder. Not echoing, not distant, close. She stopped at the door to the unused bedchamber, the one no servant ever volunteered to air out. Its brass handle had darkened with neglect, and the carved wood was cold to the touch, though no window stood nearby. Inside, the air was still. Dust lay thick on the mantel, on the abandoned bed frame, on the trunks lined against the wall. No water, no basin, no cistern. Yet from the farthest corner came that sound, drip, 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 slow and steady as a heartbeat. Her lamp flickered, casting shadows that shivered against the walls. Agnes stepped closer. The corner was bare. Only cracked plaster and an uneven seam where the floorboards met the wall. She crouched, lowering the lamp to peer closer. There was when she noticed it, a dark patch on the floor, small and round, as though something wet had gathered there and vanished into the wood. She touched the spot with the end of her broom. The bristles came back faintly stained, a dull brown, sticky even after so many years. The sound stopped. Agnes froze, listening. The silence was heavier now, pressing against her chest, humming in her ears. She stood, meaning to leave, to close the door and return to the safer parts of the house. But as she turned, the air changed. It grew warmer, faintly damp, as if someone had drawn close behind her and breathed against her neck. Agnes did not turn. She only moved, steady steps across the creaking boards, her lamp shaking with each breath she took. She told herself it was only her imagination. Dust, drafts, old wood, nothing more. In the corridor again, she pulled the door shut. But it did not close fully. The latch refused to catch, as if something inside pressed gently against it, keeping it ajar. That night, she did not sweep the rest of the eastern wing. She returned to the kitchens, to the company of firelight and the occasional clatter of pots. Yet even there, where warmth and noise should have drowned all fear, she could still hear it faintly, drip, 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 behind her ear. The following night, she avoided the east wing entirely. She lingered in the safer rooms, polishing brass and straightening carpets. Yet by the time the house grew quiet, the sound had found her again. She heard it from the stairwell, from the laundry where the cisterns were dry, even from her own small chamber under the roof. Always slow, steady, patient. She stopped sleeping well. When she closed her eyes, she felt as if she were back in that room, staring at the dark patch on the floor, waiting for it to spread. One night, weeks later, the mistress demanded that the east wing be cleaned thoroughly in preparation for a guest. Agnes tried to beg off, but her words failed her, and she found herself once more with broom and lamp in hand, standing before that half-open door. This time, the air was already damp before she stepped inside. The patch on the floor had widened, glistening as if freshly spilled. She thought she saw something shifting within it, tiny ripples moving outward, though no drop had fallen. Her lamp dimmed again. And then, from the corner, came a sound she had prayed never to hear, a slow inhale, wet and heavy, drawn deep into lungs she could not see. Agnes dropped her broom. The door swung shut behind her. And the dripping did not stop.